谁能比我狂？志气比天高，看四方。谁能比我骄？口号最响亮。
It was an amazing feeling to look around Yellow Dragon Stadium and see that our team had grown to fill 16,000 seats. It was hard to believe that this was the same Chinese internet company I joined 10 years earlier, just as it moved out of a small apartment. And leading us through our improbable journey was this former English teacher, Jack Ma. In 1999, he and 17 friends had started Alibaba.com in his apartment. I greeted Jack as he walked in. I had worked as a vice president in his company for nearly 10 years, as our team survived the internet bubble, fought a war with eBay, and managed to build China's first global internet company. I settled into my seat and wondered, how would Jack address us on this important night? And then, just like any other billionaire in the same situation, Jack took the stage.
And can you see the love?
Well, it may not have been typical for a company chairman, but it wasn't surprising coming from Jack. People outside the company assumed he was crazy, but those of us inside the company knew better. This is the story, in my own words and in the most honest way possible, of what I saw and what I learned from a teacher, his dream, and his country. It's hard for me to imagine the China that Jack was born into. While the West Lake, in Jack's hometown of Hangzhou, provided a quiet escape for its residents, China's Cultural Revolution was just beginning. For the next 10 years, the country was thrown into political chaos. Capitalists and intellectuals were punished and sent to the countryside. Families and friends were divided along class lines. China was closed to the world, and its social turmoil was invisible to most people in the West. I was just a young boy, enjoying a typical childhood in the United States, and I never could have predicted that my own future would one day intersect with that of another young boy growing up half a world away. In 1978, Deng Xiaoping emerged as China's new leader and opened China's doors to the world. Deng headed to the United States and, for the first time in years, Chinese and foreigners began to mix again. Back in Hangzhou, foreigners were beginning to make their way to the West Lake, and it was on the banks of the West Lake that Jack's life would change. When a teacher told him that she'd seen foreign tourists near the lake, Jack headed down to see for himself. Every morning for the next 9 years, Jack rode his bicycle to the Hangzhou Hotel, where he befriended foreign visitors and practiced English with them. Jack's love of English turned out to be much more than just a hobby, and he went on to become an English teacher, making $12 a month at a local university. As Jack was teaching English, Deng Xiaoping's reforms were having dramatic effects on the neighborhood. Factories sprang up as China's low wages and greater openness combined to fuel an export boom. As international trade increased, Jack saw a business opportunity and started a translation company with several of his friends.
我说赚钱这儿可能不是最好的地方啊，尽管我们钱少，但是我说精神上的享受，有时候忙了累了，他觉得这个事情有意义，那一看就会挺高兴，挺舒适。
As Jack was working on his translation business, I was teaching leadership workshops for high school students in the United States. But I began to hear stories about Americans finding adventure and opportunity in China. So I bought a ticket to Beijing and, after a year of language study, found my dream job. Hello and welcome to another episode of China Through Foreigners' Eyes. My name is Porter Arisman and I come from Denver, Colorado in the United States. For 6 months, I was able to travel China as host of a travel show on Chinese national TV. We visited special economic zones, booming cities, and remote countryside. It was truly the adventure of a lifetime. To be sure, the job had its challenges, such as trying to look cool while dancing around with a handful of pink feathers. But I kept an open mind and found that, if I just went along with things, I was welcomed wherever I went. The job offered a front row seat to China's economic boom. Meeting people from all walks of life, I discovered an incredibly optimistic country. But China in 1995 was a country that also seemed to lack confidence. People seemed ashamed that, despite its long history, China's development still lagged behind the West. Still, people jumped at every chance to talk to foreigners and learn about the West. I could sense they dreamed of traveling abroad to see the outside world with their own eyes. While I was traveling China, Jack was offered what must have seemed like a dream opportunity, to serve as a translator for a project in the United States. Jack flew to the U.S. with high hopes, but when he arrived in Los Angeles, he discovered that the U.S. partner he was sent to work with was a con man. So he fled to Seattle to stay with a family he knew. It was there that he was first introduced to the internet. It was a story I'd later hear him tell the media many times, but for some reason, I never got tired of it.
My friend Stuart, he said, Jack, this is internet. You can find whatever you can find through the internet. I say, really? So I searched the word beer, B-E-R, beer. Very simple word. I did not know why I searched the beer. Beer, and I found American beer, Germany beer, and no Chinese beer. So I was curious. I searched China. And all info search engine say, no China, no data. And I told my friend, can we make a Chinese homepage and post that inside and see what's the result? So I made a Hope Translation Agency, the homepage. Very ugly looking homepage. 9:30 we launched it, and 12 o'clock I received 5 emails. 3 from USA, 1 from Japan, 1 from Germany. I was so excited. I think this is something interesting.
When Jack returned to China, he set up China's first internet company, China Pages, a sort of yellow pages for Chinese companies, which offered an online English language directory of Chinese companies and information.
我们在启动一场技术革命，观念革命，对，好几分钟。理解，给我们的 Java 弄点出来给我们看看，然后把我录的那个声音也放出来给大家听听，然后让他们也试试我们的声音。坐，这个就是金阁工程，我们浙江省的省长外学员，然后我们在里面会把省长的声音也可以做在这里面，欢迎参观浙江。那这个是杭州。
With his website up and running, Jack set out to find companies to advertise on his site.
请问你宁波公司是哪里啊？星河。我姓马，我叫马云。
Jack realized that he'd need the cooperation of the government. So he headed to Beijing hoping he could partner with the government body responsible for controlling information in the country. But China's media and communications were strictly controlled. It meant partnering with the government on something as new as the internet was no small challenge.
我们呢主要是做在国际信息高速公路 Internet 上面，就是国际互联网络上面，给中国在整个网上做宣传。那么我们有个域名叫中国黄页，这是在国际网络上面注册登记的。因为外国人现在 利用桌子上的电脑，他已经能知道中国或者世界上什么地方买什么东西。他可以直接订货，订给香港，订给台湾，订给新加坡，但他不会订到中国，因为中国在网上没有东西。我们自信能够做出比美国人更好的漂亮的东西。我希望能够得到各部门的支持，大家可是搞好以后，我来掌握外面的技术拿进来。那么真正的目的是为了将来发展中国自己的信息高速网。我们的工作是把中国的信息和贸易信息，介绍给全世界，把中国的经济、工业、贸易、文化、娱乐和教育全部，去介绍给世界，促进中国与世界的交流。
Jack soon discovered that the government bureaucrats he met with had little interest in partnering with him. Few, if any, had heard of the internet, and they were reluctant to partner with an unknown English teacher, especially in the sensitive area of media and information. Still, Jack continued to seek a government partner, visiting the National Sports Committee, for which he hoped to create a website to support China's Olympic bid.
就是给国家体委在信息高速公路做宣传，把中国的体育全部放到电脑里去，让世界了解中国的体育。中国体育这个名字我们注册下来了，那么他说打开里面都空的，打开里面都空的。那么奥运会呢马上就开始。
我跟你讲啊，这件事情呀，你应该首先应该先约，办事程序应该你先约。你要不约的话呢，很难给你做一个很满意的回答。
我想占领海外的市场，这是很重要。就是说，等到有这么一天，中国的我们所有的电脑打开以后，里面都是外国的东西。你打开电脑，发现满天遍地的都是外国的东西，这时候后悔就来不及。失败了也无所谓，我至少把一个概念告诉了别人。我不成功，会有人成功的。但首先一点，我希望中国人早点成功，不要再拖下去。
As Jack found out, 1995 was too early for an internet business in China. The customers weren't ready, the government wasn't ready, and maybe even Jack wasn't ready. Before long, he gave up on China pages, and his dream would have to wait. By 1999, internet fever had hit Wall Street. Each day saw a new company go public on NASDAQ, minting thousands of fresh millionaires. And among the dot-coms, e-commerce companies were the market darlings. Consumer marketplaces like eBay and Amazon were soon followed by business-to-business or B2B marketplaces like VerticalNet, Ariba, and Commerce One. They promised to bring the world's businesses online, and their initial public offerings, or IPOs, made them worth billions of dollars. Their success inspired hundreds of new business marketplaces, led by entrepreneurs with one thing in common: dreams of cashing out with a big IPO. Far away from Silicon Valley, Jack was working in an e-commerce division of a government ministry. But as small businesses began to connect to the internet, Jack decided it was time to try again. So he gathered 17 friends in his apartment and laid out a plan to compete with the US internet titans. They built their own global business marketplace and named it Alibaba.com, hoping small businesses would use the site to say open sesame to global trade.
我95年的时候，我记得我做出的决定，我自己跟自己讲，我可能改变了自己一辈子所从事的事业。而今天，我想把大家请过来，跟大家共同探讨以后至少5年、10年我们要做的事情。那么阿里巴巴我们将做成怎么样？我想，从黄页的时候我就提过，黄页所要瞄准的对象不是国内战略，而是国际战略。我们所有的竞争对手不在于中国，而在于美国的硅谷。如果说第一，我们把阿里巴巴定位，就把它作为国际战略，我们不要把它定位是国内战略。第二个呢，我想就是我们要学会硅谷人的一种拼劲。如果说我们是早上8点钟下班，8点钟上班，5点钟下班，这个不是搞高科技啊，这个绝对不是我们阿里巴巴能成功。如果说我们有这种精神，反正我上班了，就是8点钟上班，5点钟下班了 ，OK， 赶紧去其他地方。人家美国人强就强他的硬件，强就强他的系统建设，这一方面确实比你早。但是玩信息玩软的，中国人的脑袋绝不比别人差。我们在座的所有的人的脑袋绝不比任何人差。这就是我们敢跟美国人斗的心。 我们绝对敢动。如果我们是好的 team， 好的团队，我们自己知道我们想做什么，我们想干些什么的时候，我相信我们是可以以一当十。我们能够赢政府机构，我们能够赢其他很多的民营企业、大的这种企业的是什么？凭的是我们的精神、我们的意识、我们的创新概念，以及我们这种拼劲才能去斗。否则的话，跟他们有什么区别呢？谁都知道 ，Internet 是个泡沫。我刚才讲的危机感就是 Internet 这个泡沫现在越来，什么时候破？然后呢，把股票掉了，eBay 股票会涨。那么有一天 eBay 股票涨了以后，可能阿里巴巴社区的股票涨，所以不要担心。我觉得 Internet 这个梦不会破，这个泡沫不会破。我们为后面的3-5年所付出的代价是非常惨重，只有这样的惨重的代价，才会赢得我们未来的取得的成功。那么目标是2002年，阿里巴巴上市。
For the next 7 months, the team plotted away in Jack's apartment, out of view of potential competitors, and they were encouraged as the website began to take off, attracting members from around the world. Alibaba's formula was simple. Exporters could post their product listings on the site, and volume buyers could browse the product listings to find suppliers. The company wasn't making any revenues, but for the first time in Jack's internet career, things seemed headed in the right direction, and the team was energized by the joy of creating something entirely new, while at the same time knowing they really had nothing to lose. By October 1999, Jack had lured Joe Tsai, a US-educated lawyer, to join the company as chief financial officer. Joe helped Alibaba raise $5 million from global investors including Goldman Sachs. Another $20 million investment led by Japan's SoftBank would soon follow. With money in the bank and more on the way, Jack decided it was time to end the company's seclusion and gathered his troops to prepare for the company's official launch event in Hong Kong.
我觉得这段时间大家都很辛苦，应该说非常辛苦，长期将近6-7个月下来，7个月多月下来，大家都没有休息过。按照原计划，如果我们在18个月内要完成在美国的 IPO， 剩下的时间还有12个月。6-7个月以前，我们从北京离开的时候，我跟大家说过，嘿，我们这次回杭州，6个月以内，我们将跟任何媒体切开，我们就埋头造我们的船，我们的船就是阿里巴巴，我们埋头训练我们的船员，就是我们的 team。如果是人家说我们不好，我们的产品不好，阿里巴巴不好，然后呢，再加上评论一下呢，我们的人，我们团长找不到2副，2副找不到3副，3副找不到大副，大家乱哄哄的一整套，这个船很容易就沉下去。
With the global competition brewing, Jack and his team headed to Hong Kong. They organized a launch so outrageous that their American competitors must have been shaking in their shoes.
1, 2, 3. Alibaba is no legend. It is with us on the internet, giving us unimaginable business and success opportunities.
Okay, maybe the launch wasn't so impressive, but at least the company had finally come out of hiding.
When they talk about e-business, they talk about Amazon, they talk about eBay. But I would say Asia's Asia, America is America. If you think internet is 3,000 meters running, USA has only finished 100 meters, and Asia probably 30 meters, and China only 5 meters. So there's a long way to go. If we have a very good company in Asia, internet company in Asia, the whole world knows that. It's easy to make a PR, to make advertisement in Asia for an internet company than in the USA. So that's why we choose Hong Kong to make the announcement. Tomorrow, a lot of people know about us.
The press conference served its purpose, and a buzz about Alibaba began to grow. Journalists from abroad trickled into Alibaba's apartment to report about a man they called Crazy Jack. At the same time, an internet boom was beginning to sweep China. Chinese were connecting to the web, and the internet was opening up an entirely new world. It was an exciting time, and anything seemed possible. As the number of internet users grew, homegrown startups emerged, modeled after their US counterparts. There was the Yahoo of China, the Web TV of China, and the eBay of China. At the time, I was working in Beijing for an advertising and PR agency. When a friend told me that a Chinese company was looking for a senior manager to join its international marketing team, I became intrigued and flew to Shanghai to attend an Alibaba customer event. As I walked in, I discovered that the website members were mobbing Alibaba's staff. The attendees were mostly local manufacturers, making all kinds of products for export: umbrellas, plastic tubing, ball bearings, and just about any widget you could imagine. They had a lot of questions for the Alibaba staff, and were eager to provide lots of feedback as well.
建议他也不是强行规定，他就建议你1周之内不要发重复的信息。
哦，我们现在
就是看到他天天发这种。
您给老看到重复信息是吧？
嗯。
哦，我们现在是有这样的规定的，就是一个人的信息，同一条信息要隔3天来一次，就是说。
The event wasn't a slick production, but there was an innocence to it all that appealed to me, and I was also happy to see that the foreigners and locals mixed well, even if it meant having to learn karaoke. And, most important, I got to know Jack and thought that he was a boss I could work for. Yes, he seemed a bit crazy, but at least it seemed he was enjoying the ride. So in March of 2000, I made my decision. I would join Alibaba. I signed my contract, packed my bags, and then it happened. By the time my first day at Alibaba arrived, the internet bubble had burst. As I traveled to Alibaba's headquarters in Hangzhou, I realized that there would be no quick IPO, no sudden cash out. We'd have to be in it for the long haul. I was curious to see what I'd signed up for, and wasn't quite sure how I'd fit into a Chinese company. I arrived at the new office and strolled around. The office had a real buzz as 100 new employees settled in. It was clear that the team was excited to have moved out of the apartment and into a real office. To bring the team together, the company organized a social event where the new international staff were introduced. It didn't feel like a typical company. It felt much more like an extended family. The team had been through so much together, they had become a very tight-knit group. We first watched a number of Chinese skits, which I didn't really understand. Then, we watched some international skits, which I understood even less. As the event came to an end, I was inspired by what I saw.
And I want everybody here, listen. We will win, we will make it, because we are young, and we never give up.
But I wondered if maybe we were being too naive. Were idealistic goals really enough? And could our inexperienced team of teachers and dreamers really stand up to the US internet giants?
B2B internet site Alibaba.com went live last year, a marketplace for trade between small and medium-sized businesses. It was the first Chinese internet company to move to the West.
A week after I joined Alibaba, Jack told me he wanted to ramp up Alibaba's global marketing. So we traveled to London on a media tour, hoping to generate some excitement.
Jack Ma is Alibaba.com's founder and CEO, and he joins me now. I'm delighted that you're here with me in the studio, Jack. Thanks for coming in. Let's just start with your experience in setting up one of the first internet ventures. Just tell us a little bit about how you started.
Well, in 1995, March, I happened to get a chance to go to the States and...
Jack was a natural public speaker, and the media seemed interested in his story. But as we traveled through London, the mood was beginning to change.
NASDAQ hits its year low as the tech plunge passes day 5.
And as the number of internet skeptics increased, the media were becoming more hostile.
Jack Ma is the chairman of Alibaba.com. Thanks very much for coming to see us.
Thank you very much, pleasure.
Tell us something we've never heard about the internet before. We're fed up with hearing what it might do. Tell us something we haven't heard before.
Well, now in Asia, wherever you go on the street, like in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Beijing, all the young people are talking about the internet and think about set up an internet business. So the fever of internet right now in Asia is trying to catch up the US.
Are you a millionaire?
Now? No.
Do you want to be?
Well, I hope if it could be naturally if I can be.
Because in Hong Kong, people are going bonkers about it. We've seen the scenes. But what is the money you're making? How will you make money on the internet? And why should anyone wonder about it if it's not making money?
Today, the site, right now we do not make any money on the site, and so totally free because we want to try to attract more attraction.
Can you see why people think it's so much hot air? You don't make any money. You've got extraordinary claims, and yet you make nothing.
That's internet.
Yes, but what's the point?
After returning to China, Jack and I continued our publicity push. In a world where funding for internet companies was drying up, it was a free way to gain exposure for the company. But for a Chinese citizen, speaking openly to Western media carried political and therefore personal risks. So I was always surprised at how calmly he handled hard-hitting questions from Western journalists, even when the discussion strayed from business into politics.
That's asking for a lot in these days, with internet businesses coming and going with the speed they are at the moment. You can't even look 8 weeks ahead, let alone 80 years. What makes you think you've got a business that can last?
We have gone from nothing when we started internet in China, 1995. We are going to grow to 80 years. We're going to suffer more.
All the companies say that. We're here to stay. And then tomorrow they're gone.
China was not even connected to the internet yet. We started. And we suffered. And today I can say that we suffered much more than any other internet company in this world could imagine. China is open the door. And internet is the best way to let the people understand what's happening outside, and also let the government understand what's exactly happening outside, and that the outside world understand China. I choose internet is one of the way to bridge the people from us.
So ultimately, internet will change the climate in China.
Yeah, climate.
Social climate, political climate, everything.
I agree.
As Jack's name grew in the foreign media, the Chinese media began to regard Alibaba as a success story, and Jack was frequently invited to share his experiences with local business people.
客观世界，客观表达，新苗说新闻。
我们很多人呢都听说过阿里巴巴和40大盗的故事。芝麻开门是开启这个藏宝山洞的钥匙。今天下午有很多人冒着酷暑到浙江世贸中心听阿里巴巴网站总裁马云的讲座，他们是为了获得开启电子商务之门的钥匙。那么这个马云到底是何许人也呢？今年7月10号，马云成为美国权威的财经杂志《福布斯》全球版的封面人物。他是50年来第一位获得殊荣的中国企业家。
西雅图，他今天讲我有微软，我有波音。纽约，他今天说我有 IBM。我们希望有一天我们杭州人，当然要我们很争气说我们有阿里巴巴。我坚信技术是为人服务的，而不是人为技术服务。如果人为技术服务的话，那么这家公司可能真的是要走下坡。
As I listened to Jack's speeches, I began to get concerned. Jack was being hailed as some sort of a management guru, but Alibaba hadn't even brought in $1 of revenue. We were high on a pedestal with no foundation. And inside the company, there was increasing chaos. The organization had expanded too quickly, and there was a growing division between the Chinese and international management teams. We were losing our way. Before long, Jack was forced to call a meeting to address the growing turmoil.
其实我们犯的这个最近犯的一系列的错误，就是我们违背了当时自己在1年以前定的方向。我们不应该为投资者而去设计我们的产品，我们应该为我们的客户去设计我们的产品。客户需要什么 ，member 需要什么，而不是投资者需要什么。 而不是外面的新闻记者需要什么。很多北京的媒体骂我是狂人和疯子，这人说话乱说。但是我说实在，今天以后你们记住啊，没办法，阿里巴巴要想赚一点广告费回来， 我们只能乱说、狂说。不这么说，人家觉得人家说的话都一样的，有什么好听的？公司另外一个重大的决定是阿里巴巴 .com 全面迁往美国，把 Custom Service、Ad Team 留在中国 ，Engineering、Production 全部是在美国生产。所以为了主要这个战略目标是，我们要把阿里巴巴 .com 建成世界一流站点。That's the decision we have to do。也许决策是错误的，但是我永远记住一点 ：a wrong decision is better than no decision at the internet time.
Jack's announcement that we would move our English website operations to Silicon Valley was meant to catapult Alibaba into becoming a truly global website. But the move only worsened the organizational chaos in the company. Teams in the US and China fought for territory, and we became a two-headed monster. In a matter of months, Jack reversed the decision, and I was asked to travel to the US office with Jack to help announce a series of layoffs. Jack gave a speech apologizing to the US team for the mistakes that had been made. Then, one by one, I called staff into a room to let them know they were being let go. An office that had earlier been filled with life and hope now felt like an abandoned ghost town. As I flew back to China, I wondered what this meant for our company. We were still burning through cash. We had not made a single penny of revenue. At the same time, we were making claims as bold as any internet company. Back in China, as I rode through town in a taxi, I got a call from Jack. His voice was shaky, and I'd never heard him so distressed. He told me that he'd received angry calls from laid-off staff. Then he asked me if I thought he was a good person. I tried my best to reassure him that he'd done the right thing, that laying off staff today would allow us to grow in the future. But I could sense his confidence was shaken, and I wondered, if Jack lost his confidence, who would be left to encourage us? By 2001, the internet industry was up in flames, and Alibaba was beginning to pay the price for making such bold promises. The same media that had showered us with praise were now predicting our demise. To save money, we laid off nearly our entire international staff, eliminated our advertising budget, and brought our operations back to China. Still, we were burning through money and searching for a source of revenues. Our most pressing concern was to add some stability to our organization, so we hired Savio Kwan, a management veteran with 25 years of experience, to serve as our chief operating officer. Savio was quick to ring the alarm bells and made clear that we had to generate revenues to survive.
增长，不增长就是死亡。
Savio's first priority was to help the company clarify its mission, vision, and values. Next, he created several training programs for Alibaba's staff. Having someone on board with experience stabilized the company, and managers passed along what they learned to their colleagues. But despite order coming to the company, we were still losing money, and the funds we had raised from investors were quickly running out. In 2001, we discovered something which gave us hope. We found that customers were offering to pay as much as $5,000 to appear higher in Alibaba's search results. So we launched a paid service which allowed exporters to build a premium storefront on Alibaba's international site. To promote the service, we set out on a national roadshow, meeting customers in cities along China's east coast. The formula was simple. Jack would offer a speech about Alibaba and the future of e-commerce. I would give an introduction to Alibaba's overseas activities, and our sales team would follow up. As our roadshow gained momentum, the number of attendees increased, and the presentations got more sophisticated. One by one, we were persuading Chinese business people to move their businesses online. But even as our customer base grew, our cash in the bank was dangerously low. We had cut our marketing budget to zero and needed to save money on salary and headcount. So I proposed to Jack that I take a year off to pursue a dream I had to travel around the world. And if Alibaba survived the internet winter, I'd come back for half the pay. Before I left, I attended the company Christmas party. It had been a tough year. We tried to make the best of the situation, performing skits and singing songs. But as I looked around the room, I wondered, Would Alibaba still be around when I came back? I began my travels by riding a bicycle across southern China. Along the way, I traveled through small towns and villages, often staying with families who invited me in as a guest. I saw the pain and struggle of life in China's countryside, but also experienced the kindness of ordinary people and saw the hope they had that their lives were improving. Internet access was just arriving, and I could see the potential e-commerce had to lift people out of poverty while opening doors to the outside world. As I traveled, I received email updates from the team in Hangzhou. I was told that Alibaba's paid services were gaining momentum, and at the end of the year, I received a one-sentence email from Jack which convinced me it was time to return to Alibaba. Before long, I was on my way back to Hangzhou.
95年做中国黄页到外经贸部，到99年3月份成立阿里巴巴。这3年多来，所有的人都在说阿里巴巴不懂得如何挣钱。阿里巴巴是个只会烧钱的公司。昨天晚上在6点正，我们拿到的数据是，阿里巴巴已经全面盈利。也就是说，到昨天为止，我们公司不仅赚了1块钱，昨天我们从人民币上来说，我们赚了50万元钱。所以。
It was as if I'd come back to a new Alibaba, and it was one of the most exciting moments of my life. The team was re-energized and confident we'd not only survive the internet bubble, but were poised for growth. It was clear that our team was stronger than ever before, but just when it seemed everything was on the right track, a crisis hit the company. When an Alibaba colleague was diagnosed with SARS, the entire Alibaba staff in Hangzhou was put into quarantine. We were forced to shut our headquarters down, and the crisis threatened the company's very survival. To keep the website running, 400 staff carted their computers home and set up a virtual operation. I was locked in my apartment for 10 days. My only human contact was with the nurses in spacesuits who visited to disinfect my apartment, and the regular phone calls I received to check my temperature.
喂，你好，刚刚体温了，我是36.6。
It was lonely at times, but our team embraced the challenge, keeping spirits up by chatting online and hosting online karaoke contests. Fortunately, our colleague was released from the hospital, and the officials stopped by to remove the lock from my door. Once I was out, I called Jack to let him know I'd been released. He told me to be prepared for Alibaba's biggest challenge yet, one that would determine Alibaba's future. It would make our previous battles seem minor. We were going to war with a competitor of immense size and nearly unlimited resources. We were going to war with eBay.
eBay is one of the most successful companies in the history of U.S. business. During its lifetime, it has grown faster than any company ever. It now runs a global online marketplace where more than $40 billion worth of cars, clothing, computers, and anything else you can think of. eBay conducts more transactions every day than either the NASDAQ or the NYSE. It has more regular users than American Express has cardholders. Perhaps no company has created more opportunity for its customers. One reason why their loyalty runs deep.
To any reasonable observer, eBay looked invincible. Founded by Pierre Omidyar, the company had grown from a small website for collectibles into the world's most valuable internet company. Meg Whitman, a Harvard MBA, had served as CEO for 5 years and become a media darling. eBay's global dominance appeared unstoppable, and Meg Whitman's ambitions for the company seemed limitless.
Today, eBay is truly a global marketplace. There are now 147 million users around the world in over 150 countries. Based on population, eBay would rank 7th on a list of the world's nations. We have a presence in 33 markets around the world, including Australia, Canada, China.
It was this presence in China that worried Jack. 3 years earlier, eBay had bought a large stake in eachnet.com, an eBay clone founded by Xiao Yibo, another Harvard graduate. The company shared many of the same members as Alibaba, particularly small and medium-sized businesses who were beginning to sell their products online. Jack felt it was inevitable that eBay would come after these customers and would ultimately pose a major threat to Alibaba's core business. To stave off the threat, Jack had sent a secret team to the original Alibaba apartment. While the rest of Alibaba's staff was in quarantine, the team worked day and night on the project, doing handstands to entertain themselves during breaks. Finally, after a few months of hard work, they launched their creation, Taobao, meaning search for treasure.
淘宝买的比基尼秀，淘宝买的 DV， 淘宝买的吊带配，淘宝买的迷你 jeans， 淘宝买的杯子泡了，淘宝买的减肥 T， 淘宝买的被子盖了，淘宝买的床。弄完了，一切东西多得转不过来，眼睛这个那个 NAC 全部买到还是 money。点点鼠标滴滴滴上了淘宝，我最喜欢。不怕你淘不到，只怕你想不到。淘宝网，淘我喜欢。
A month later, Jack's fear came true, and eBay announced it was buying the rest of eachnet and investing $150 million into the business. Meg Whitman flew to China to celebrate eBay's acquisition. With 10 million members in China and a 95% market share, eBay was confident of success.
在过去的2年当中，全球的互联网企业经历了泡沫破灭后的全面衰退期，很多公司不是举步维艰，就是关门大吉。但是呢，美国的一家名为电子港湾的互联网公司却逆势而上，风光无限。
梅格惠特曼女士的中国之行是来开她在全球的第18家分店。此前，电子港湾公司已经投入3000万美元，获得了中国易趣网33%的股份。
eachnet is by far and away the leader in the online trading community business. So the combination of a leadership position and an excellent management team made eachnet the logical choice.
Yes, it's agreed that eachnet management is excellent. However, for the time being, the fact is this company hasn't started to make profit.
It usually takes between 2 or 3 years for a new entrant to become profitable, and we anticipate that eachnet over time will become quite profitable and grow very rapidly along with the internet in China.
With eBay poised to dominate the China market, Jack decided it was time for Taobao to make its official debut.
那今天请大家来，我们是想让大家见证一个特别的事件，全球最大的网上贸易市场 B2B 网站阿里巴巴今天在杭州宣布投资1个亿，给一家刚刚诞生才2个月的网站淘宝 Taobao.com。
Jack announced that Taobao would build a consumer marketplace customized for the China market and make it free for 3 years. He argued that China needed its own model for e-commerce, and that it was too early to charge customers while the market was still just developing.
今天也不会跟别人讲淘宝怎么赚钱。淘宝今天最关心的、最想知道的是，我们如何真正能够帮助这些个人电子商务交易能够发展起来，能够为他们服务好。我相信这个市场是巨力无大。中国其实现在看看中国的 B2C 网站，大部分是延伸了美国的 B2C。 中国的 C2C 也基本上全部照搬了美国的模式。
Making Taobao free was a key way to differentiate Taobao from eBay, which collected fees from its users. We gambled that eBay would not match our move, since doing so would expose Meg and her team to intense pressure from Wall Street investors who expected eBay to quickly capitalize on the $180 million it had already invested in the market. Putting investor pressure on eBay in the US meant having a strong PR campaign with the international media was extremely important. A few days after the Taobao launch, Jack stopped by to discuss our progress.
Hey, Jack, you're here. Okay, 郑总，马上来了。Okay, bye bye. Hey.
Did you send the press release?
Yeah, did you see that? I sent it to you. I don't know if you
No,
got
I did not receive it.
International media is not such a big news story yet.
Mhm.
So what they want to know over time is, how is this model different? How are we beating eBay in China? Like, how does our model work? Because the Taobao model is different.
Taobao model different is you see each is here for 5 years and then from eBay, but they did not make money. Taobao model would take that for 1 year and make money. I think it's a big bomb.
Have you heard anything from our competitors on that one?
No. I think they will not make any comments so far.
How's the traffic looking?
Double.
Yeah. Good.
Jack laid out his thinking on how we'd compete with eBay. In order to battle eBay's superior firepower and unlimited resources, we would have to pull them into a guerrilla battle. And for a team which had grown up studying the combat tactics of Mao's Red Army, a guerrilla strategy came naturally. Our first move would be to publicly declare war on eBay. The resulting media coverage would bring attention to Taobao and allow us to piggyback off of eBay's well-funded advertising campaign. Jack set a few ground rules, stressing that we could make no personal attacks on Meg Whitman and would not play the nationalism card. But we would argue that eBay's US model did not fit the China market. And to show we were serious, we would have to take our fight to the US. Jack and I traveled to Silicon Valley in New York, meeting with journalists in each city. We encountered a skeptical audience.
Now let's turn our attention to e-commerce in China. Jack Ma is founder and CEO of Alibaba. He is in New York to be a panelist for a conference on business in Asia. And you're facing competition from eBay's Chinese language site, eachnet.com. How are you going to grow in the face of an established company like eBay coming out with its Chinese language site?
Actually, eBay and our C2C site Taobao, we just had fierce competition last 13 months, and we beat them on the traffic of product listings and memberships. Well, we think they have a tough time.
Despite the media's skepticism, we accomplished our mission of engaging eBay in a war of words, and the buzz of our David and Goliath story grew in China. The most important part of our strategy was to build a website that better fit the China market. And in developing our websites, the two companies pursued very different strategies. eBay moved to link its China site with its global platform, discontinuing features that were popular with Chinese users. Taobao built a website customized for the China market, adding features to help users build trust and make friends online. The website was infused with a softer and more human touch that appealed to China's youth. To eBay's Western managers, Taobao probably seemed too cute and flashy. But Taobao appealed to a new generation in China that used the internet with a certain innocence and optimism that eBay failed to appreciate.
淘宝的微笑刷新每天的奇迹，天天互联对面的你我，新的连接拉近着我们距离，我就在此刻更加爱上你。听我说，淘宝网连接你和我，创造幸福的生活。
The website included locally popular features such as live chat and message boards, which encouraged members to build relationships and community. The result was that online shoppers were joining Taobao more quickly, while eBay sellers began to pull up stakes and move to Taobao. As the encouraging results came in, the team took time to celebrate.
我们做到了我们今年的目标，而且这段时间非常多的好的数据都非常多。只想说一个，淘宝骑兵再无不胜。现在是这样，以前也是这样。现在这么小的孩子都已经做到了，是不是？以后我们肯定会做到，是不是？
好，恭喜淘宝，我们一年比一年更厉害，就在eBay。
As the battle entered 2005, eBay and Taobao were neck and neck. eBay decided to double down its efforts in China, announcing an additional $100 million investment and declaring that they were on track to become the undisputed winner in China. But Wall Street was beginning to have doubts.
Today's big headline story on Wall Street, eBay. The stock once again tumbling.
An abomination. The stock was annihilated.
For the first time in its brief history, eBay has hit some major bumps in the road. Questions about why the company needed another $100 million to spend in China.
With investor confidence crumbling, Meg Whitman traveled halfway around the world to discuss her China strategy with CNBC. Meg and her communications chief Henry Gomez worked hard to explain to CNBC's David Faber that eBay was still in the driver's seat.
Our view is that one of the defining characteristics of winning e-commerce companies globally over the next 5 to 10 years will be how successful they are in China. So this is a market that we want to make sure we have a terrific position in.
But as eBay's promises to Wall Street continued, so did the pressures. Back in California, the data coming in must have added to their fears, as each day seemed worse than the last. At last, Jack received an invitation from Meg Whitman for a trip to the eBay headquarters so that Jack could see the company up close and discuss a partnership which might lead to a ceasefire. After his trip, Jack sat me down with a colleague and explained that, although he liked Meg personally, he did not believe we would be able to work with eBay as long as she was CEO. He felt she simply wanted to buy the China market to make Wall Street happy, and that she didn't share his vision of helping grow e-commerce to the benefit of China. With no ceasefire in sight, our battle with eBay became more contentious. But we had one card up our sleeve that eBay had not anticipated.
It is official. Yahoo agreed to pay $1 billion in cash for a 40% stake in Alibaba.com. The move is designed to catch up with eBay. With the deal, Yahoo is going to become Alibaba's biggest investor, and Alibaba will take over Yahoo's China operations.
It was one of the biggest deals in internet history and set off a media frenzy. For the first time, a Chinese internet company had taken over the local operations of a U.S. company in China. And with a search engine now in our portfolio, we boldly proclaimed that not only would we beat eBay in China, but also Google.
eBay obviously has been trying to really build and be a successful company in China. I guess with the Yahoo backing, this is really representing a big challenge for eBay in China.
Back in Hangzhou, the mood was euphoric. To make the partnership work, it was critical to smoothly integrate Yahoo China's team under Alibaba's management. So we chartered a train from Beijing to Hangzhou to bring Yahoo China's team to visit their new national headquarters. It didn't take long before we realized that the two teams had very different cultures. Yahoo China's team seemed weary from years of management changes, and they seemed to think that getting taken over by a local company was a step down. Whatever the reason, the two teams just didn't mix well. Another important challenge was getting government support for the partnership. Jack met with the local government leaders to explain the deal and the benefits it would bring to Hangzhou. Fortunately, we had earned the support of the local government over the years because, as an e-commerce company, Alibaba was seen as a job creator.
今天我跟你说这句话阿里巴巴是完全有可能成长为一个世界级的企业。那么一个世界级的企业，它最重要的要有一个灵魂人，要有一个领军人，就是要有一个世界级的企业。马云，我认为已经够资格了。
With the Hangzhou government embracing the partnership, we received an important green light. But as Yahoo's founder Jerry Yang toured our offices, we learned that when we acquired Yahoo China, we also acquired a political hot potato. When news broke that several years earlier, Yahoo had handed email information about a Chinese political dissident to the Chinese government, Yahoo was put on the defensive. The reports coincided with our annual Westlake Summit, where Bill Clinton was set to be the keynote speaker and give an address that would be broadcast live on local television.
I'm honored to ask everyone to join me in extending a warm welcome to President William Jefferson Clinton.
我想，就像我刚刚所说的，不管一个国家的政治体系是什么样的，因特网都能够通过交流、通过信息带来巨大的变化，影响到寻常人。我想这是一件好事情。
I was proud that Jack had brought one of the few foreigners who could argue credibly to a Chinese audience about the need to open China's internet. But the sense of pride didn't last long, as the international media were quick to pounce on our new partner.
I'm Peter Goodman with the Washington Post, and this is a question for Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang, your company was founded at a time when internet companies were marketing themselves both to consumers and to shareholders, the public, as not merely business propositions, but almost forces for liberation, for freedom of information, free flow of information, freedom of expression. There are now people saying that your company is effectively a tool of the Chinese government, that you become a force for repression. How does that make you feel personally? And what can you tell us about your company's role in the Shoutao case?
Well, no, I appreciate the question, and I think that it's obviously not as clear-cut as you're making it out to be, and I think
Jerry Yang was clearly uncomfortable with the question. For the next several months, Yahoo attempted to lay low and avoid the issue, but their muted response only fueled the controversy. Meanwhile, the issue put Jack on the hot seat.
Hello and welcome back to the show from China. Now, China's best-known internet guru is Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba.com. Recently, Yahoo gave information to the government that led to a detention of a Chinese journalist named Shoutao. If you were running Yahoo China at the time, would you have done the same thing?
Yes, I will.
Why?
Wherever you do business, you have to follow the local rules and laws. Either you can change the law. If you cannot change the law, follow the law. So, it's the law in China, you have to follow it. Wherever you do business, this is the basic principles.
I felt it was a bit unfair that Jack had to defend Yahoo's previous actions. But, while people may not have agreed with his position, it helped that he offered a clear and consistent response, based on his own beliefs.
Good morning and welcome to this hearing on the internet in China.
Yahoo, meanwhile, continued to muddle through the issue, and was ultimately called to Congress to defend its actions in China. Back in China, we did our best to move beyond the controversy and called a strategy meeting to develop a plan to beat Google and Baidu, the local search engine leader. Jack gave his typically inspiring speeches, but I felt he underestimated the complexity of building a successful search engine, and we left the meeting without a clear vision of how we would turn our newly acquired company into China's leading search engine. For the next year, Yahoo China suffered from a series of strategic mistakes, partnership squabbles, and PR distractions which threatened to hang a cloud over the entire company. But fortunately, things were looking much brighter on the other side of our company.
上淘寶，想像力決定購買力。淘啊淘啊淘啊淘！淘寶網淘你喜歡。
The funding raised from Yahoo allowed Taobao to invest in national advertising campaigns. And for the first time, Taobao's numbers surpassed those of eBay. With money in the bank and confidence in Taobao's future, we planned one last attack on eBay, which we hoped would provide the knockout blow. With Wall Street watching, just as eBay released its earnings, we announced that we'd make Taobao free an additional 3 years and called on eBay to follow our move.
And then I'm still working on the release that we're going to send out today about Taobao. And then I think eBay's earnings will be after the close, and then we will make sure it's posted a bit before then so that it's included in the news cycle. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
eBay's stock dropped 5%, and in a knee-jerk reaction, Henry Gomez issued a response from eBay, arguing that free is not a business model.
So we released it in the US at 3 in the afternoon yesterday and 3 in the morning today here in Hong Kong. And eBay already came back with a response saying free is not a business model.
Okay.
And they're saying they're much stronger because they can charge. I think we're much stronger because we can stay free.
Yeah, we can afford to be free. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so the response that quick.
Yeah, so a few hours later they did that.
That's good. Okay,
So.
that's good. Let's make them respond even quicker later.
Okay.
That's great. Very happy, very happy. Actually, they dance with our pace. That's exactly what we want. We want them to say like that. We want them to do things like that. That's good. The day when they disappear in China, they will regret for what they said today. Business model for charging is already proved in the States. So you don't have to prove the market, you have to prove how big the market is. You have to prove that you can create value in this market. But they just do not listen. Well, free is still a good word for C2C because it's so premature market yet. Only 8% of people in internet users here has tried the online shopping. So among 100 people, 92 people have not tried using the internet. Why you want to prove the business model is better than not charging? I just can't believe that. John?
Yeah, hey.
Yeah. Did you see the eBay? Their PR.
15.1 million users at the end of September, I think.
15.
Yeah, at the end of September.
So we're growing at like 50% faster rate than they are.
Okay.
You think eBay's time is over?
Almost over. Too late for them in China. Unless they do something really, really meaningful.
竞争对手 eBay 也发了一个关于我们免费3年的新闻稿，他们自己的一个 response， 如果感兴趣。
已经有 response 了。
已经有 response。
没问题。
我们那个淘宝今天下午2点钟宣布再度免费3年，所以呢，整个已经在中国市场上我们占有了65%到70%左右的 market share， 所以我们今天宣布呢，在未来3年内，我们再追加1个 billion 10亿人民币的投入，希望能够创造100万个就业机会。Business is fun, competition is fun. Don't take it too seriously. They took it too seriously in China for competition, not only created real value for the Chinese market, China market and China consumers. That's what the main reasons they really lose. 接下来就看我们一家唱戏啦，没有eBay什么事了。
Over the next year, Taobao continued to gain market share from eBay. And finally, eBay relented, eliminating fees. But it seemed too little too late, and Jack encouraged the team to look beyond the battle with eBay to focus on more meaningful goals.
就是淘宝网现在不仅在中国很热门，在美国现在也很热门，大家都在关心说淘宝网跟eBay的竞争还能持续多久，也就是说eBay什么时候能够再翻过来。那我想今天跟大家讲的这句话呢，不是说我们在未来的1年、2年、3年以内，我们要记住这句话，以前的竞争是针锋相对的竞争。今天的竞争呢，我们要记住这句话，叫做心中无敌，无敌于天下。我们不要把那个别人就是赶尽杀绝，啊，这个不用，真的要这个。我最为淘宝网感到骄傲的是，我们不仅能够自己做好，而且能够为天下几百万、几千万的人能够创造那个就业机会。所以呢，我希望在未来3年以内，我们不要把竞争作为第一要素，竞争已经变成第2、第3要素。最主要的是如何把淘宝网的交易量继续做起来，把淘宝网的用户再增加起来。我们不是说打败谁，而是把这个市场做大。
In the end of 2006, we read the news we'd always hoped for, but didn't totally expect. eBay announced that it was shutting down its Chinese website. In a strange way, I knew I'd miss having such a mighty competitor. But it was exciting to think we had won the war. And with Taobao the winner, with no clear threat in sight, the doors were open for us to do something that had been postponed for 5 years.
Now, back to tech in China. It's not just RIM shares that are surging. There's an IPO fever sweeping Wall Street.
You can call it Alibaba fever, Aaron. The initial public offering of the business-to-business Chinese internet site, Alibaba.com, is coming next week. Who can blame investors for paying attention? After all, this is a Chinese internet company, a coupling that is perfect for the current market.
It was a strange feeling to wake up on the day of our IPO. As I rode to the listing ceremony, a lot was going through my head. I had always imagined that reaching an IPO would feel like crossing a finish line, but when the day arrived, it felt much more like a graduation. While it was exciting to reach a new milestone, I was also sad to think that a more innocent era had come to an end, and there would be no turning back. As I pulled into the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, Jack was just arriving. To the media and investors, this was a day about money. But I knew that Alibaba had gotten this far because money had never been our main goal. And I was confident that, by following the same strategy, it was just a matter of time before Taobao would become profitable and have its own day in the sun. As I looked around the room, I began to feel that I was ready for new adventures, and it would soon be time to move on. But I wondered how the company would cope with growing from a David into a Goliath. In a country where successful entrepreneurs are celebrated as heroes, Jack was once again on a pedestal. But I knew he was human, and it would be harder and harder to live up to the high expectations of those who looked up to him, eager to sing his praises. A year after the IPO, I decided to leave the company and did what I always seem to do when my life reaches a crossroad: travel. Before I left, the team offered to organize a going-away party, but I declined. It was just too hard to say goodbye to something that had meant so much to me. As my own journey continued in a new direction, I could only watch Alibaba's developments from afar. I felt pride at the times the company met success, and felt disappointment at the times the company made mistakes and failed to live up to its own values. But through it all, I remained inspired by the lessons I'd learned, from a time when anything seemed possible, and from a teacher I'd met half a world away.
今天你开始有点小钱了，你开始有点地位了，不要因为外面人对你的眼光发生了变化，不要因为你口袋里的钱发生了变化，因为有一样东西是不能变化的：使命、价值观、承诺。
After some time on the road, I took one last chance to travel back to Hangzhou, to visit some old friends, and see what had become of the company that we'd created.
所以今天晚上，我大概准备了10年。10年以前，我设想过10年以后，我会如何对我的员工讲话，如何对我的客户讲话，如何对我的朋友讲话，讲些什么。刚才来之前，看到那么多阿里人，看到那么多阿里巴巴的朋友、亲朋好友，我突然觉得，其实不需要讲什么，因为10年来，所有阿里人的行为已经讲清楚了。感谢大家。10年以前，在我的家里，我还有其他的17位的同事，刚才的创业者们，我们描绘了一个图。我们认为中国互联网会怎么发展，中国电子商务会怎么发展。我们讲了2个小时，从此就开始走上了这条路。那么，什么让我们活了下来？什么让我们10年以来坚持的走到现在？这些问题我们一直在思考。今天呢，我想在这儿跟所有的阿里人、阿里的亲朋好友分享一下。我认为我们是一个非常幸运的公司。我们幸运生活在这个时代，我们幸运生活在互联网的时代，我们幸运生活在中国。今天我们刚刚开始，后面的路还非常之长。来到阿里巴巴不是为了份工作，是为了个梦想，是为了份事业。让华尔街所有的投资骂我们吧，我们坚持客户第一，员工第二，股东第三。我们需要有21世纪理念的公司，是一家有开放、更懂得开放、更懂得分享、更懂得责任、更懂得全球化观念的公司。世界需要的是一种精神、一种文化、一种信念、一种梦想。阿里人未来10年坚守我们的信念，坚守我们的文化，坚守我们的梦想。只有梦想、理念、使命、价值体系，才能让我们走得远。今天很残酷，明天更残酷，后天很美好。绝大部分的人死在明天晚上，看不到后天的太阳。阿里人必须看到后天的太阳。世界给了我们这个舞台，全球给了我们这个机会，动用所有的智慧、所有的勇气、一切的努力，去帮助1000万家企业生存、成长和发展，创造1亿就业机会，为10亿人提供真正价廉物美的平台。谢谢大家。
As the evening came to a close, I reflected on my time at Alibaba and all that I'd seen over the previous 10 years. I'd seen a company started by an English teacher grow to 16,000 employees and serve more than 100 million people. And I'd seen a group of ordinary people that even I had underestimated come together as a team to build something they believed could change the world. I realized that to people outside Alibaba, we probably seemed naive. But Jack was right. Alibaba was more than just a company. It was a dream for which we'd fought and struggled, laughed and cried. And in a country where speech still had limits, it was a place where my colleagues had found self-expression in the form of a company. My own time at Alibaba had come to an end, but I knew the story would continue. And whether it would end as well as it began would be up to Jack and a new team of colleagues, and how well they upheld the values which had carried us this far. But I found comfort in the fact that, whatever happened to Jack, or to Alibaba, the internet had sparked the dreams of a new generation in China. And I felt that, if the rest of the world had seen the China I'd seen, maybe fear of China's rise would be replaced with optimism and hope. And that's the story of what I saw and what I learned from a teacher, his dream, and his country.